The cash for query row exploded today after TMC MP Mahua Moitra and opposition members stormed out of the Lok Sabha Ethics Committee meeting, accusing the panel chief of asking her personal and unethical questions. Soon after this, a massive war of words broke out as ethics panel chief rebuffed all those allegations levelled by both opposition MPs and Mahua Moitra herself. BJP MP Nishikant Dubey, on whose complaint the ethics panel is questioning Mahua, claimed that she was trying to mislead the issue by getting aggressive and using unparliamentary language. This may be an unprecedented situation where even a panel's proceedings have become really acrimonious, slipping into the public in this fashion. One wonders what the future of this said hearing can be. But of course, it will not take away from the initial charges or questions against the TMC MP, which pertains to sharing your parliamentary login and password and taking alleged bribes or favours in lieu of questions asked in Parliament. Both have serious issues and have become serious issues for Mahua Moitra. They can have serious consequences, and eventually Mahua Moitra will have to respond before a panel of this kind. The panel's primary mandate is to figure out if she broke ethical boundaries by divulging her login and allowing an independent third party to file questions on her behalf. Aside from all the drama, the fundamental question is this: can Mahua Moitra evade this ethics question here? We take that to our guests in just a bit, but first up, take a look at these visuals that transpired inside Parliament today. These are visuals from just when that meeting broke off. You can see Danish Ali and also Mahua Moitra and other opposition MPs, part of this panel, extremely angry. They are saying some things in high-pitched voices, shouting almost, where the media personnel there to catch what they're saying. Mahua Moitra, of course, has alleged that there were quote-unquote filthy questions being asked by the ethics panel chief Vinod Sonkar, and opposition MPs who were part of this panel have also echoed or supported Mahua Moitra's claim, slamming the chairman or in effect the entire proceedings that have transpired. Now, the ethics panel chief Vinod Sonkar rebuffed those charges made. So let's just take a look at what are the statements that have come from either side. So the opposition has claimed, and particularly Mahua Moitra has claimed, that unethical, personal and filthy questions were asked by the chairman to her. The panel chief has rebutted by saying that actually it was Mahua Moitra who was extremely aggressive during the meeting and even used foul language or unparliamentary language. The opposition has gone on to say that it was only the panel chairman that was asking questions. They have taken offence to that, while the panel chief Vinod Sonkar has said that Mahua and all other opposition MPs are the ones who are actually misbehaving during this meeting. And of course, both can only be taken at their word right now. Let's take a quick recap though of what this case is. What is the charge against Mahua Moitra and what is the response from her so far? And she has responded in public, so we're going by that. The first charge, and this is the one that is directly linked to the ethics panel, that Mahua Moitra shared her login details of the Lok Sabha portal with businessman Darshan Hiranandani. Mahua's defence very openly in public has been that MPs often give their login details to others, and this is not a strange practice. This is certainly not a matter of breach either of national security or of ethics. The second charge is that gifts or cash were exchanged or received by Mahua to ask these questions in Parliament. Mahua's defence in this case also has been that so far no evidence has been provided. There is no money trail to prove that there was any quid pro quo. Finally, the charge is that she conspired to protect the interest of a said businessman, in this case Hiranandani, while attacking another businessman. Mahua says that there is no connection to the questions that she has asked in Parliament and Darshan Hiranandani, who she calls a personal friend, his interests. So that's where this case stands. The question though that we are asking is, forget all the drama, forget everything else that could happen outside of the Parliamentary Ethics Committee. Right now, can Mahua Moitra evade the ethics question? And of course, later comes what happens with his parliament, with her parliamentaryship. We'll take that to our guests in just a bit.
Asking also the 50 questions. All the MPs are here. the ethics committee, unethical questions were being asked from a lady member.
And you're saying that the chairman asked these questions?
Yes.
आपने कहा कि दर्शन हीरानंदानी ने नहीं किया, पीएन ने किया, आपने खुद स्टेटमेंट दिया है। तो क्या एथिक्स कमेटी को ये पूछने का अधिकार नहीं है किससे आपने ड्राफ्ट कराया, फोन नंबर क्या है, कॉल डिटेल क्या है?
Hello, Moto.
Let me first go across to my colleague Payal Mehta, who's joining us. She was tracking this meeting, and Payal, it has certainly had a very stormy session and a stormy, end. We saw those visuals where both Mahua Moitra and Danish Ali and others seemed to be extremely enraged in what transpired inside. Vinod Sonkar has also come out and spoken to the media. But could you tell us, via sources and otherwise, what are you learning or what exactly happened? What is each side saying?
Well, when Mahua was being cross-questioned, and Shivani, like you were saying earlier, that, the questions are pertaining to her login and the travel details were in. So Mahua Moitra walked out on the grounds, supported by Danish Ali and the others, saying that, my privacy was being breached and I was being made uncomfortable. But the questions that were being asked, according to the sources present in the meeting, were to do with the case as well. Now, there are multiple breaches that Mahua Moitra has really done over here. The BJP MPs allege that she walked out of the meeting abusing Vinod Sonkar, and the BJP, mind you, will make a massive issue out of this, given the fact that Vinod Sonkar is an SC MP on one front. Secondly, when Mahua Moitra walked out of the meeting, she is not there as a member of parliament. She's not a member of the committee. She had walked out even though she was made a witness in that case. So can a witness walk out on the committee? Can she do that? Certainly, that's another breach that she has committed, and we're given to understand that possibly that can also be a punishable offence as well. So what started in the morning was the meeting when she gave her deposition, and even then she was giving her entire history about her association with Jay Anand. Even then, some MPs pointed out and told her that why are you giving so many details, which is not required. This is not a family court, is what one MP told her. But she said that these details were important. So when you are counter-questioned on the details, then why would you call it personal? So that's been the argument. So the committee is very, very, sure of what they want to do from here on. They'll possibly call for a meeting sometime next week, draft a report and adopt that drafted report, submit it to the Lok Sabha Speaker, and then take it forward. And when the winter session of Parliament commences, Shivani, on the first day you will see a motion being moved. Now the motion is generally moved by the leader of the Lok Sabha, which in this case is the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, or the Deputy Leader, which is Rajnath Singh. So obviously they'll be moving a motion to disqualify her. Again, there are two things to look at. The ethics committee can only disqualify her, Shivani, but when it comes to other actions, with the fact that they're looking at money trail, etc., it will be important to see if in its wisdom the committee decides to refer it to an outside agency. That will again be further trouble for Mahua Moitra. But the way in which she's really gone about the entire thing, there's bound to be action against her, because you can't walk out of a committee where you have been summoned as a witness.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. When you say that the committee might recommend disqualification, will that be on the grounds that she walked away and she misbehaved, as they're alleging, or on the original charges that she's facing?
It's going to be on the original charges that she was summoned in this committee because there were complaints that were received against her for having done financial and otherwise impropriety and have violated the ethical code that is, of course, a mandate of the parliamentarians. That by allowing somebody to use your login ID from an overseas location has been a breach. The papers have been circulated to the members in terms of what the IT report was, what the Home Ministry has said, and of course the certification of the affidavit of Darshan Hiranandani, which is of course been certified by the External Affairs Ministry. So these are the charges on which she really be pushed for. And the committee had earlier also said, Shivani, that once these three witnesses are deposed before the committee will take a call and make its report. So no further witnesses will be summoned anymore, is what I'm given to understand. And as far as Mahua's walking out of the committee meeting is concerned, that's going to be a separate matter. That's going to be pursued separately. And also what I'm given to understand, that possibly some members of parliament from the BJP will also move a breach of privilege motion against Danish Ali, Mahua and the others, in particular against Mahua for having abused the chairman, and also abused the SCMP.
All right. Payal Mehta, thanks a lot for joining us with all of those details. Let's see how this progresses, but certainly getting from bad to worse. Let's also open this up for our guests joining us. Priyanka Tibrewal of the BJP is with us. Tehseen Poonawalla, political analyst, leans towards the Congress party. Tushar Gupta, senior editor, Swarajya. And we're also expecting one more guest to joining us. Tehseen, let me begin with you. I'm sure you must have seen what has transpired. It is getting from bad to worse. I'm not sure, on whom the blame can be pinned at this stage, but this only compounds Mahua Moitra's problems, walking out and, as alleged, abusing, quote-unquote, the panel chief, whatever your grouse may be.
This abusing, quote unquote, then she'll say that she was personally insulted. That's also quote unquote. All that is within the parliamentary committee. None of us have any privy to that. So I think that's unfair. There are two questions that need to be asked. Point number one, what is this cash that Mahua Moitra has written? Now, if the basis of this complaint is that letter by Hiranandani or that affidavit by submissive Hiranandani was so dominated, the two very pertinent questions that nobody is asking is, if Hiranandani is so submissive to be dominated by Mahua Moitra and he wrote this letter, in that same letter which is now gossipal, why is the cash component not written? And what constitutes expensive gifts? As per Mahua Moitra, it's 2 lipsticks. Mr. Hiranandani says some expensive gifts. He's not specified. So what are these expensive gifts?
You're missing the point. Actually, as far as the ethics question is concerned and the ethics panel is concerned, they're not really judging this because they're not the authority to do so. They're fundamentally looking at the basic question of whether as a parliamentarian you should have given out your login and password to an independent third party. That independent third party being a businessman in this case who allegedly has access to your account sitting overseas. Tehseen, that's the fundamental question Mahua Moitra faces in front of this agency. The other questions may come in front of other agencies.
So that particular question, again, that's a very grey area. Should she have given her password? My personal opinion, no. But where is the illegality? Everybody is giving their password to everybody.
But that's why I'm saying this is not an illegal issue. It's an ethical issue as a parliamentarian. And this panel has the right to determine whether you have breached that ethical boundary or you have demeaned the house by your actions. It's not always about legal or illegal.
That's true. So they will look at it as ethically, but ethically others are also giving it to their OSDs and their PAs.
But there's a difference, no?
Now, there's a massive difference. I agree with you. Now, there's a massive difference in giving it to your OSD and PA. I completely concede to that point. Completely concede to that point. Then giving it to submissive Hiranandani, who's so submissive that if some other Chinese person would have asked him for the password, he would have given it, and the system could have been. I completely agree to that. But I've read these rules of the parliament very, very, very carefully, and no rule has been framed that makes it a legal issue. But as far as morality is concerned,
not even morality. Don't bring morality into this. Pure ethics.
No. Ethics
as a parliamentarian, not even as a person.
Ethics and morality. Now, morality is Hema Malini was endorsing a water brand and she was asking questions. So that I'm taking, she was a thing. So I agree with you. That question is very serious and Parliament needs to draft rules. But the legality of it so far, I have not been.
But then what explains, at least my colleague was reporting earlier, that Mahua Moitra herself has made this about a jilted ex-partner, right?
Yeah, that's
precisely her premise, and by her own words, nobody else has done that. In fact, mostly we've dealt with these stories as completely 2 different episodes, one of the dog concern and the custody battle and what has transpired otherwise. She has made it repeatedly about the fact that this is an ex-jilted lover with an axe to grind. And then you cannot be uncomfortable when questions get asked either on your conversations or your calls. I'm not sure what filthy question was asked today, but of course you'll have to provide for those details. Walking out of a panel like this, it robs you of your chance to defend yourself. Tahseen, very quickly before I open this up.
So I'm not her legal advisor, but I think one thing that Mahua is guilty of, and I've told this publicly and her, is choosing the wrong friends. I think she's completely guilty. If this ex of hers had such an officer of the court and has so much respect for the law, while his then girlfriend was doing wrong things, he should have gone to the court and complained. He should be going to the court.
Did that person make Mahua Moitra give out her login and password?
That is precisely the point. If today is coming out and saying this password was given, these expensive gifts were taken, while he's an officer of the court, he should have given it. Now, when the relationship is over in an acrimonious way, he suddenly become Mr. Gossipal, the clean.
You're not getting the point I'm making. This is fundamentally not interesting to any of us. This is, this is not what we want to focus on. We just want to focus on, as a parliamentarian, did you share your password or
there's one who can have a conversation. So allow me, I get your point. You asked me the question of Jay. I didn't go on Jay's question. Since you asked me, allow me my way of rebuttal.
I didn't ask you a question on Jay. I said,
you said
walking out of the panel like this.
No, you said she's brought her guy, her ex.
Yeah, she did.
Here the record.
That's a matter of. That's a statement of fact.
Correct. So allow me to rebut that statement of fact.
Go ahead, quickly.
Thanks. So I would have finished by now. Let me be very brief on two issues. That this ex of hers, who has an acrimonious relationship and today is witness to all the wrongs she did, does not make him Mr. Clean. If he was in a relationship and she was doing something wrong, he was duty bound to report it to the court. So he's not smelling of roses. He's hanging out with Nishikant Dubey, who's in this committee. Number two, I agree and I concede on the point of ethics and morality, yet I don't feel there is the legality issue so far, but it is stupid and ridiculous to give your password to anybody in Dubai, especially to submissive Hiranandani.
Okay, let BJP's Priyanka Tibrewal come in. Tausif Khan, lawyer and political analyst, leans towards the TMC, is also joining us. Priyanka Tibrewal, you know, this is also becoming a bit of a problem for BJP. I say this only because, you know, if you have a parliamentarian being called into an ethics committee meeting like this, and I understand that she's not an MP when she's presented before this panel, but there has to be some sort of sensitivity with which all issues have to be dealt with. Now, if Mahua Moitra is making a very serious charge that quote-unquote filthy questions were asked of her, that is a problem.
Shivani, I'll answer to that, but let me also tell you the allegations which you are giving now on BJP. You are saying that BJP is becoming a problem for BJP.
Because it seems like this is a case that is being pursued, particularly by the BJP. I think we
Shivani,
can say that.
Allow me, when you have questioned me, allow me to answer.
Okay.
So this committee is the ethics committee, and it is not only comprised of BJP. There are opposition parties also, and opposition parties MPs also, who are part of this committee or member of this committee. Now today madam goes and she feels that, you know, very unethical and filthy questions have been asked. It is nothing. It is just a tactics to evade whatever questions were being asked today, because she doesn't have answers to them. Now see, what could be more filthy? From the very first day, as a spokesperson of BJP, I have been saying, madam, we are not interested in your personal life. We are not interested in your ex-boyfriend, the jilted relationship, the tilted relationship. But it is she who is continuously saying that, no, there has been acrimony in the relationship. She wants to speak about this.
Okay.
So what more the committee would have asked her? They would have asked her about the gifts. That is what I'm assuming, because I do not know what questions have been asked. They would have more so over, they could have asked her about, you know, her 18 times visiting Dubai unprofessionally without any professional work. More so over about the sharing in of login ID and password and the gifts which she has got and her relationship with Mr. Hiranandani. And more so ever, like Mr. Tausin was saying, you know, everyone, many other PA people and the OSD and the secretaries, they have login ID and password. So is Hiranandani the OSD of Mahua Moitra? No. Are his office workers the OSD or secretary or PA to Mahua Moitra? No. So why was it shared? That is the main question. Now she's saying that they were asking me why I was speaking to whom in the night. Of course, when the questions were placed, when it was, logged in from Dubai, they will ask that at what time, with whom you have discussed, with which questions. Now she feels it is very unethical. It is not ethical to share your login ID and password, but this is very filthy if the truth is asked to you, because truth is uncomfortable. That is the only reason.
Okay,
see, look at her body language, look at her behavior.
No, frankly, we don't know what actually transpired. Like I said, we have to take each side on its word and we have to wait and see. I'm not sure of what kind of minutes of the meeting are preserved as far as this panel is concerned. I'm sure there would be some, but whether, you know, all parties can agree to what the minutes of the meetings are going to be, etc., I'm not so sure.
But you look at her body language, that only proves. She was
you
showing big eyes to the media.
Priyanka, you can't vilify somebody for their body language, no?
No, that is what I'm saying. Look at the kind of arrogance which she was holding. And what has the media done to her? What has the media done to her? Media was simply asking what happened inside. Why so much of anger? Why so much of arrogance? Robert Pinto ko itna gussa kyun aata hai bhai?
Tausif, let me bring you in. The first question is today, the manner in which she has walked out, the manner in which they have spoken after walking out, aggression and, arrogance being shown doesn't behoove an MP. Especially one who's facing such grave issues and charges. Tausif, first on that question, what transpired today?
Come on, Shivani, we are not talking about school children. She's not a class 6 student. She must behave in a way the principal asks her to. She is a member of parliament representing a constituency, representative of people, and she's a lawmaker. She's there to make the law. Now, you people, this whole BJP brigade I mean, it's so absurd. They only sound like a bunch of jealous people who cannot stand a lady carrying a Hermes product, carrying a Louis Vuitton product, and now they have brought all these charges. Where did she get all these expensive stuff from? And Mahua Moitra has already answered all those questions, that she was earning huge money before she became a
No, but
parliamentarian.
fundamentally, Tosi, that's not the charge against her, where her wealth comes from. The charge is made by two associates of hers only who have said that she received it via this businessman. The BJP has only shot off somebody else's shoulder in this case.
No, initially the charge was she has taken bribe for asking questions to help a businessman. For the past 4 or 5 days, since the affidavit of Hiranandani could not really, specifically establish the charge has now shifted to, unethically sharing the login password and accessing the parliament website from outside country. Now, this is something which has to be looked into within the framework of NIC or within
This
the
was the
framework
charge
of...
from the very beginning. This was the charge from the very beginning. I'm sorry, you are wrong, Tauseef.
Please do not interrupt me.
No, you cannot just blatantly lie on the national television.
You can speak.
The charge was from the very beginning that this is a matter in regard to the national security about the login ID and password.
Okay.
Do not interrupt
Don't
me.
twist
Do not
words.
hear me out. Hear me out, please.
Okay, let him finish.
Please, yes. You see, I will again repeat. A bunch of people jealous of someone's lifestyle. Anyway, see whether or not there has been any offence has to be looked into within the four wall corner framework laid down by the NIC or by the rules applicable for parliamentarian.
Yes,
whether
but Tauseef,
it is allowed
I come to the fundamental question I am asking today. So you're coming back to the question I am asking today. Ethically, the question is, should she have given out her password and login to people who are not her staff? On top of that, they turn out to be independent business entities who could have their own interests. She has accepted that much in public domain, that yes, she did so. Now, can you evade your ethical responsibility when you've admitted to it? It's no longer a question of if this happened. She's accepted to it. Is this right for a parliamentarian to do? And is it okay to divert from that fundamental question by saying, oh, everybody else is also saying, no, everybody else is not doing this? People may share it with their staff, with authorized
Shivani,
people in their office. They're not doing it with independent business entities.
Shivani, you see, whenever we are judging someone on whether it was ethical or not to share the login password, you have to also look into what access you get when you enter into the system. Does the access, and what was the purpose? What was it used for? If it is only limited to a small purpose of typing in the questions for the purpose of asking these questions, which
can I ask you a question, Tauseef? I get your point.
In favor of Hiranandani.
It is available in public domain.
No, I get your point. Priyanka, I'll allow you a rebuttal. I'll allow you a rebuttal. But 1 second.
Compromise on the confidential information.
Tauseef.
That is the measure you will use to test the whether it is ethical or not to share.
No, but that's exactly the point. Ethical does not depend on what could have happened. If the portal was hacked or not, that's not the ethical question here. The ethical question is purely the fact that as a parliamentarian, you gave your login and password to a business person to type in the questions on your behalf. My question is, are you short of staff? As a parliamentarian, you get so much money, salary, to run your office. No. What is the need for you to depend on Darshan Hiranandani's staff to type in your questions? What is the justification of that?
That is a question which Mahua Moitra herself has to answer and has to answer before the ethics committee.
So that is the question I'm asking.
What we are saying.
Whether she is justified in using the login password the way she has used, and whether that has caused any harm to the
but that the ethics panel will decide. The ethics panel's precise job is to decipher, to come to an agreement if a parliamentarian has lowered the dignity of parliament. They don't decide on legal issues alone, they decide on ethical issues. There is a privilege committee that may come into effect for other offences that Mahua Moitra may be accused of. Tushar Gupta has been waiting patiently. Tushar, this is becoming one of those battles now. It seems like neither side is going to give an inch. And what has transpired in the meeting today certainly goes on to now possibly suggests it's put paid as far as this hearing is concerned, this panel is concerned. I don't think the two parties will see eye to eye anymore.
Yeah, look, Mahua Moitra walked out with very high tempers, which are sort of inversely proportional to her credibility at this point. But she said there were personal questions asked. Now, no one is interested in Mahua Moitra's personal life. Not the BJP, not the journalists, not the media, not even the ethics committee. But in this specific case, unfortunately for Mahua Moitra, there's a strong overlap between her personal life and professional life. So there would be some questions about the people she was friends with, about the kind of details she was sharing with them. And I'm surprised Tehseen and Tawseef are here trivializing the issue of the passwords being shared, though Tehseen agrees that it shouldn't be shared. But here's the thing, when you talk about the purpose of sharing a password and the questions being posted, on whose behalf was those questions being posted? On what policy matters? To which parliamentarians were those questions directed? And the businessman Hiranandani's affidavit has said that there were specific questions asked pertaining to the RBI policy, towards MSME policies, towards energy policies. So the purpose of sharing the credentials was not just alone to post the questions, it was to draw out certain information pertaining to certain industries. That is the problem. Also about the gifts, even though that's beyond the ethics committee right now. But Shivani, a parliamentarian is not supposed to receive gifts of more than rupees 5,000. They're supposed to report what they have received. Now, I'm pretty sure, I don't know Louis Vuitton so well, but I'm pretty sure a bag of that costs far too great than that cost. So
no, she has not said she has received any bags. From what I remember, she said that only as a personal gift she has received a Hermes, Hermes scarf. But because Hiranandani was a personal friend of hers.
No, but the MPs are in no position to receive gifts that cost more than rupees 5,000 from independent business entities. Look, there are parliamentarians, there are certain responsibilities. There is a code of conduct. In 2005, and there is a precedent for it. In 2005, the ethics committee recommended expelling one MP because of the same situation, that there was an evidence that cash was taken for questions to be posted before the parliament. So Mahua Moitra, by coming out and saying, oh, I've been asked unethical questions, private questions, I'm sorry, but there is a strong overlap between the two in this case, and there would be tough questions she would have to answer, if not before the ethics committee, before the law enforcement agencies then.
Yes, Tehseen, very quickly, I have 30 seconds only. Tehseen, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, the question of ethics, I completely get that, and Tushar, you and I are on the same page. But the problem out here is there is no illegality. If something would have caused national security loss, it hasn't. She shared it. It's stupid. I'm not even saying it's unethical. I'm saying it's absolutely stupid and ridiculous to do it. It's not the same as sharing it to OSD, but nothing happened. Now, because I did something stupid, could have led to something bad as a narrative. It didn't happen, therefore the illegality is not committed. On the part of the gifts, Hiranandani's affidavit, if that is gospel, then Hiranandani does not say he's given those gifts in lieu of questions, because then, criminally, if Mahua Moitra is at fault, as
then he is guilty too. I get that.
Equally guilty.
Yes, I get that. Yes. Priyanka, 30 seconds, please. Final 30 seconds.
See, you cannot prove your innocence by screaming. And this is what is happening. Mahua Moitra is trying to do her best, but she knows that she is guilty of doing something. That's the reason TMC is not defending her. Because they know that there is merit in all the allegations which have been made. And there is enough evidence, and how it will be proved that whatever she has done. That is the reason that she's screaming all the way. We are not hearing anything from any TMC official spokesperson in this regard. Now, why? Because whatever she has done is clear in the eyes of law. Now, as Tehseen is saying that, that there's nothing illegal, this is so stupid, nothing has happened. So what were you expecting? That something should have gone wrong? Something should have gone wrong with the national security? And then only we would have discussed that why things have gone wrong? No, there are ethics. You are chosen as parliamentarians by people you are elected. You are supposed to ask questions on their behalf, not for businessmen, by taking something from those businessmen.
No, that is an ethical question that is certainly over Mahua Moitra's head, along with sharing the password and login. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. But speaking of that ethical question, the questions that Mahua Moitra is facing purely on grounds of ethics, I also want to go across to our special guest, PDT Achari, former Secretary General, Lok Sabha. Mr. Achari, thanks a lot for speaking to us. Do you believe the question of whether the parliamentary login was shared or not with a third person is an important ethical query that Mahua Moitra will eventually have to answer and be held responsible for?
Actually, the main question that has been raised is whether she has received money for putting questions in Parliament. If that is proved, then it is a serious matter. Um, then it is a question of it's a case of corruption, and also it's a case of breach of privilege of the House. Because if a member takes money for putting questions in Parliament or doing other parliamentary work, that is a very serious breach of privilege of the House and contempt of the House. And then, if that is the case, then it has to be dealt with by the Privileges Committee of Lok Sabha.
Right.
Because it is their domain. Breach of privilege is dealt with by that committee only. And that committee alone has the mandate to deal with a case of breach of privilege. Now, if that is not there, then the other issue is whether a member can share
The password
the
and
login details and password and all that with somebody for asking questions. That means for online questioning, whether that is ethical or unethical. Now, that needs to be looked into by this committee, and it has to take a view on that. But I must say that the Lok Sabha rules are silent on the way in which the online submission of questions should be done and so on.
Right.
Earlier, the rule was that a member has to sign a question form on which the question will be put, will be written, and the member's signature was very necessary for the office to check the veracity of this. Because we have to ensure that the member has actually put this question, or the member owns this question.
Right.
But when this online submission started, the Lok Sabha has not framed any rule to regulate it. So in the absence of the rules, it is very difficult to say whether sharing of this password and other details with someone else is an unethical thing
Issue or not.
is
Okay.
against the rules and so on.
No, I'm glad you brought up the rules part, because it has also come to public light that this NIC login that every parliamentarian is given, one of the first do's and don'ts of that form is that you're not supposed to share your password and login with anybody. You have to keep it a secret. Would that not function as a rule, or if not as a rule, at least as an advisory to parliamentarians?
Well, that needs to be looked into by the committee. That is precisely perhaps what the committee is looking into. They have to take a view on that. So I can't say anything. It is before the committee. So it is not proper for me to make any comment on what the committee will do. It is up to them to take a view on that. But I am saying that the Lok Sabha rules are silent on this. Because this submission of questions is governed by Lok Sabha rules. And so, if there is no rule, then of course, what should be done will be decided by this committee.
The ethics committee. Okay. I do want to ask you, the ethics committee, does it have the power to recommend not just a suspension, but also a disqualification of the said MP? Because there's a little bit of confusion on this, on what happens depending on what they decide. And can they decide to disqualify the said MP?
Well, the committee, if it finds that a person, a member of parliament is guilty of unethical conduct, then the committee can suggest certain punishment. After all, parliamentary committees are all recommendatory bodies. The committee as such cannot punish anybody. The committee will make a recommendation to the House. And if the House accepts it, then of course that person will stand punished. The committee can suggest suspension, admonition, reprimand, and these are some of the types of punishments which are provided for. But it cannot suggest the expulsion of a member, because expulsion of a member, takes place when normally the Privileges Committee suggests it, or any special committee with a special mandate suggesting.
Okay.
Ethics committee, I don't think has the mandate to suggest expulsion of a member from parliament.
All right.
It can suggest suspension, because
Suspension.
all the cases which have been decided by the ethics committee show that it has suggested only the suspension.
Right. Okay. So that's an important issue to look at, that they can only recommend a suspension, not even go to the extent of a disqualification or an expulsion. What really happens to Mahua Moitra remains a question. A big thanks to PDT Achari for joining us.